Hello, good morning, friends. As a matter of fact, we promised you in our video Prologue to Spoken English and Communication in English. Today, as per the promise, we are in English. Let us discuss about the spoken. As a matter of fact, it's not only individual question. It has become the essential need of today in the world of globalization. Everyone thinks to speak in English, but the question arises, and generally students and my friends put a question, ask a question whether I myself would able to speak in English, not only in English, but would able to speak a fluent. Then I would like to put a question to them again. Try to ask this question to yourself. Whether you asked this question to yourself, can I do? If you put such question to yourself, then answer you have, not others. Answer is if your heart, if you answer, if you have answer that I can do, then why do you ask such a question? But one thing that is very clear cut, everybody wants to speak, everyone wants to speak fluently, but no one wants to do what is to be done. As a English language, we all know that it's not our mother tongue. So natural, such problems should be faced. As we come to the linguistic process of learning, honestly try to ask yourself what's about your mother tongue. When you learnt it, then we come to conclude when we learnt our own mother tongue, whether you attended any professor or linguist or educationist. Now, that means it's very clear to learn a language is the golden rule, natural process. On the basis of the researches and inventions in the language, when we come to the title Spoken English and Communication in English, here the term English, it's just a language, and spoken, that means the art in speaking. Communication or spoken to be dealt very artistically on the basis of the researches a linguist or researches or educationist or researches. When we come to spoken, it's very obvious on the basis of the research that mostly people in their action, their work, they speak in verbal. And when we come to the language, to analyze for the purpose of the spoken on the basis of the language learning, the essential skills, abbreviated LSRW, that is the golden rule to learn the language. And when we come to spoken, the very beginning, LS, that means listening and speaking. These are the essential skills to be maintained for the purpose of the spoken. Generally, for the motivational purposes, we learn, we hear from someone, and even the subject teachers or the motivational persons. Oh, only speak, never try to be bothered about the grammar, or the language accent. Okay, for a while it is to be considered, it is to be regarded that for the purpose of the motivational it's accepted, but it can't be accepted on the ground of the disciplined language, because avoiding the language discipline as grammar, as a linguistic process, it can't be effective. It can't be accepted. No doubt, we are not professors or linguists or the standard purpose, but the purpose is to communicate to the next. Aristotle recommends that to be a good speaker, to maintain a communication very effectively, one who wants to be effective in communication, very essentially to be paid, as he recommends in his book Rhetorics, that there are four tools essentially required in communication. Very first, the speaker; second, the content, idea and thought; third one, the channel. Channel means the medium; and the fourth one, the receiver, the listener. These tools are to be maintained very cautiously, very attentively. Here, both the listener and the speaker are to be very cautious, either the speaking or the listening. I generally say, when we come to the skills of the spoken, of the learning language, then essential skill is listening. It's the tragedy of the human being, though they wanted to learn this language correctly, but when we come to the skill and the fundamental rule, listening, I generally say to my students during the classes, that is the motivational or the philosophical or practical sentence, frequently they have from me, and the sentence is, we learn by listening, yet don't. We learn by listening, yet don't means the language is learnt very basically through the process of listening. Recall for a while, in our childhood, either the mother tongue or the foreign tongue, because language has basically its two standards. As English in our country regarded as a second language, foreign language, non-native language. When we come to the accent and the standard of the language, it's not the problem of the non-native speakers. Even standardizedly, when we come to conclude about the language, even the problem in the countries where they have this language, certain language, their own mother language, their mother tongue. But when we come to common communication, for the purpose of common communication, a common person to be regarded certain things to be effective, to make effective speech or communication. We should know very golden rules. We should try to be very frank. First of all, we have to speak, we have to listen, but by the negligence and by the full of negativity against this language, as soon as certain fellow starts to speak, due to the negligence or negative stream, we try to avoid. not only try to avoid, but try to mock, and our mockery not only the next fellow, but also it comes towards us. Even today, due to this bad habit, we are not able to speak, not able to express. On other hand, though certain fellow may be the excellent one in written or in the account of the knowledge of this regarding language, but the problem is to speak, and not only to speak, but under the essential requirement aspects of the spoken. So, in this class, as we in the part 1 in Hindi video, very detailedly we discussed about the tools, about the awarenesses. When one becomes ready by the heart, by the mind, that I have to learn any any way, then know one thing. Whenever you have chance to speak, speak. If you haven't chance, try to have chance. Try to create chance to speak, and also it should be in the habit of you to listen. If you are not able to speak, or the other one, the next fellow speaks, please, then for a while, regard yourself for the favor of your own dignity. Try to start to listen. When you are in the habit of listening, when you are in the habit of speaking, if you are not able to speak in full sentences, full phrases, and throughout in the compositions or in dialogues, then keep one thing in your mind, that whenever you start to learn, the stepping stone is that we have to start to speak in alphabetical, pragmatic, phraseological, and the short or simple sentences. If you are not able, even in the simple sentences, to speak or to express your own ideas, then one thing can be done: around and surround. You yourself know the great amount. You have the great account of the words from your own knowledge, from your account, previous knowledge. Try to take the words and try to apply the words in Hindi sentences. Hindi sentences, if you apply these sentences, as the diamonds are embroidered on the cloth, then it starts to be enshrined. Your sentences will be enshrined if you apply the words, single words. I would like to say, since very childhood and since very early period, when we started to learn this language, the avoidance as well as the carelessness of our own in this language, since very first day, as a teacher, I, during the 30 years teaching experience, found that very first, the since childhood, when we were in the process of the alphabetical learning, we avoided alphabetical series. When we pronounce the alphabetical series, we pronounced wrongly, not only wrongly, very wrongly. And then, how can one expect to be corrupt when alphabetically are pronounced wrongly? Then, no hope, can't be hope to be correct in words, in phrases, in sentences. Here, In this video, we are only just as a prologue, as introductory. We are discussing in next videos as per the process of the learning, as the fundamental requirement of the spoken we will discuss. The fundamental requirement of the spoken, as when we come to language has basically two bases. One, when we started to create out alphabets, that is scriptal or physiological. When we pronounce alphabet, that is verbal, that is spoken, and on the side of the spoken, when we come, language is to be dealt very linguistically. And when we come linguistically, in the side of the spoken, the speaker has to maintain the requirement or the essential tools of the spoken or the language in linguist. These are as the tools. Very first, syllabification, accent, stress, intonation, articulation. Here you need not to be bothered what these are. Today I would like to appeal you, if you have made up your mind to speak in English, if you want to get your English, your spoken better one, then you have to make up your mind. You have to be ready. And essentially, through this video, through this class, I would like to recommend you that if you have started to mind up the basic or fundamental requirement in learning in a spoken, that the four tag or tool, these tools abbreviated LSRW, and the beginning for the purpose of the spoken, listening and speaking. Try to listen as far as possible. Listen, listen, listen. Speak, speak, speak. Now the question arises, what we have to listen, what we have to speak. Here, if you have words in English, and I myself am sure, having your personality as educated one, that you have a lot of words, a great account of words in English. Then, as per the requirement, the Hindi sentences, you have to speak dham, you have to apply dham. I also hope, I also know that you have your own relations, your friends, the great educated and the great knowledgeers. If they speak, please listen them. If you are not able to have such fellows, then find ideals, those are able to speak. And if you maintain the basic requirements as I discussed in this video the earlier, then you yourself would start to realize what is to be essentially maintained in a spoken. If you take good examples, if you take good listeners, ideal listeners, then the speaker, one who wants to speak in English, one who wants to maintain speaking in English, would start to realize what are the essential requirements. Friends, there are so many things. The speaker, one who wants to speak, should have the exposure of the ideas. Without the exposure of the ideas, ready-made sentences are not helpful. Ready-made sentences can't help you throughout in the conversations, because Ready-made sentences at the certain areas can cover, can be helpful, but throughout, if you want to maintain your speeches, throughout, if you want to be effective speakers, then it's the basic requirements that the topic on what you are speaking, on what you are going to speak, should be in the great exposure. One thing also to be clear to the speaker, one who wants to speak thoroughly in English, maintaining the essentialities of English, as a effective communicator should know, as Aristotelian recommendation, that there are the four tools to be maintained and to be very active in spoken. As a matter of fact, under these four tools, when we come, then communication should be maintained as per the essential requirements of the communication. Very first, we would like to recall or remind, Shakespeare also recommends about the good communication, that then effective communications essentially requires the fundamental elements, that clarity and brevity, the soul of the spoken. Here clarity means when a speaker speaks, should know one thing, to whom and what to and how to. These three things to be maintained. When you speak, it's not enough you have ability, you have enough knowledge, you have enough exposure, but the speaker also to be maintained the essential requirement, whether speaker keeps in mind the listener. As per the listener, we have to speak, and we have also maintained the matter, the channel. Here essential third tool of the spoken or communication is a channel. Medium. Medium means the language and the essentialities in language in expression. Next, we also as a communicator should have in our mind, it's not to be mumbo jumbo in language. Certain fellows, as I come in the contact of the speakers, they prove themselves that they are able to speak in English and they start their mumbo jumbo language. We need not to show, we need not to make a great stage of the knowledge. We should keep one thing in our mind, that we have to make understand the next one, the listener one. If one is in the habit, such bad habit of the mumbo jumbo, that means would create ambiguity. And ambiguity, that means misunderstanding. Ambiguity is not accepted. Ambiguity is the barrier. Ambiguity is the barrier not only to the listener, even the speaker. When a speaker presents with the ambiguity or unclear ideas, then naturally the listener would not able to understand, and there won't be as expected response. Here, if a speaker maintains these, then have to come to learn language in its disciplined way. And to learn a disciplined way of the language, it's very clear. In language, as a motivational, generally we say, speak either wrong or right. Bother not. Without grammar, you have to speak, but speak. Okay? For a while, such motivational sentences and such motivations can be accepted. But As a language, we have to maintain the essentialities of the language. In next videos, we will discuss step by step, point to point, to improve, to develop spoken English. I hope you have gone through the Prologue spoken English, the communication in English, and in next videos we will discuss, we will interact to each other, we will share the ideas. I would try to help my colleagues, my fellows, my peers. Thank you. Have a nice day.